Hello everyone, my name is Amal Candido. I'm here today with you to discuss the topic of resisting. In general, resisting changes, whether on a personal or professional aspects of our life. The opposite of opening out is contraction, and it's the primary sense when we're contracting because we are not accepting the way it is. That much of actually our pain and suffering and stress and conflict with others is that we have friction and resistance to life as is. Accepting means that you are actually giving up to the truth of what it is, not giving up on life, but it's actually accepting of what it is. The fact of the reality, no matter what it is that you are resisting or not liking or not comfortable with. You might not like it, but which is understandable for most of us when things happen that we don't like and we resist them because they cause us this discomfort or we are experiencing uncertainty of how that is going to look like or it's going to turn out. Accepting grounds you in what it is, in what is true, which is where you have to start with in order to differentiate and live a life of effectiveness and happiness and healing. Accepting is the foundation of wisdom and inner peace, if you want to see it that way as well, actually. Focusing on relaxing and opening into the experience, into the fact that things do keep changing, there are changes in life, and not fighting with it. Because for example, jobs changes, aging, life transition, the more we fight, what we resist just keeps happening over and over and over, and it magnifies our suffering. If you sense inside that you are fighting change, how does it feel for you? Ask yourself that question. How does it feel for you? Does it feel tense? Do you contract? Do you feel uneasy? Alternatively, you can also accept the sheer truth that change, like it or not, it's gonna happen. How does it feel? Probably it's a lot better accepting it rather than fighting with it. You'll feel much better and at peace into going forward. At the end of the day, remember that we can accept the reality of change while we are also doing what we can to help change things for the better. So sometimes we look at change that is not necessarily a good change, but why? Why can we be open to the experience, accepting it, and then maybe think about it in another positive way, in a way that we could be changing things for the better? Nothing about opening to the nature of change of both internal experiences or external experiences means that we should not pursue a wholesome ends with wholesome means any less wholeheartedly. Try to widen your view on to see the whole picture, recognizing that countless other people are dealing with the same thing. You're not alone in this process, or the changes that you are feeling. Feel what it would be like. It's a gift to yourself to let things change. Think about it, having that second chance. If things are changing, you're evolving. And because if things are not changing, whether on your personal or professional level, then you get complacent, you get comfortable, and then you have a hard time dealing with uncertainty. You have a hard time stepping out of your routine because you are comfortable. So you are resisting and fighting everything else around you that doesn't seem familiar or comfortable to you. That's not a way of living or enjoying life or actually achieving the life you desire. Also consider what may have seemed to be a change for the worse might perhaps be in some ways a change for the better. A lot of cases that happen when we think the worst thing happening to us it turns out to be a change for the better. Many times over, these are seeing things into new opportunities rather than limitations and difficulties. Also consider that events and experiences may be unfortunate or painful, but that in itself, it's not suffering. It's actually our own aversion or resistance to the events and experience that actually create the friction and cause the suffering at the end of the day. The more we resist, the more we suffer, the more we fight, the more we push, the more we put ourselves into the push and pull aspect of life. Similarly, if you try to hold on to pleasurable experiences that is futile and painful, or painful as well, any moments of that experiences are utterly actually temporary. So whether it's pleasure or pain, they're not everlasting, they're not permanent. They are bound to pass, they are bound to go on their merry way. So these feelings are temporary and not permanent. So trying to cling to any experience is both frustrating and also doomed, because it's not a strategy for a lasting happiness. Seasons change, people come and go. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. There are gain and losses in life, and blame and fame, and you're just or scandal or waves are going through lives that these are just the flow. These are the journey in your life. So you have to stay within gratitude. You have to stay deal with it with grace, and without drowning yourself into every time there is a change or an experience that you're facing in your life, that it's the end of it. We can't do anything about it. The past is always in the past. So what we look at is in the future, and discover these areas of our life that has possibilities, and including when we look at the possibilities, is becoming more of learning and growing and expanding and evolving. That's what change brings. Yes, it does bring discomfort. It does bring that it kind of magnifies our resistance to things, but it also brings a whole slew of possibility if we let it and if we allow it, which makes the result a lot more authentic in our life. So obviously, not all difficulties are equally difficult, and when you observe that life contains unavoidable difficulties, is not to minimize the impact that, or suggest that you should give up trying to make life better. But people, me included actually, add a lot of unnecessary frustration and anxiety and self-criticism by resisting the difficulty or the change that it's presenting itself, let's say in my life, for example, often with an underlying attitude of we should have, and it should have been this way, and it should have been that way. Try the attitude of accepting the difficulty or the change instead of actually getting aggravated by it. It's a lot more peaceful, I've discovered later on, after many attempts of resisting so many things. I wasn't always comfortable with change, and I would resist that, and that's what caused the difficulty. Sometimes people don't appreciate your work, maybe, or you are being discriminated against or otherwise treated unjustly. The body ages, we grow, weary, whatever it is. There are so many little hassles of the everyday life that we have to meet where it is and at the level that it at, and be open to it with a beginner mind, if you want to call that. If you can do that, it gives you that sense of peacefulness. Start by acknowledging any stress, weariness or frustration, anxiety or pain. Open to the impact on your body, what that feels like in your body. We always have, with change resistant anxiety, whatever it is you're feeling, it will have an impact on your body. You have to be in touch between the body and mind and the soul, and understand how that show up in your own and affect your body and your mind. Whatever it is, whatever the difficulty is, let it be. Let the experience be, and try to step back from it and observe how that unfolds in your life. I'm going to share a personal story. So I worked at a place for 7 years, and I enjoyed really working at this company, and they were a restructuring internally that took place. What I thought the right thing to do at the time was, okay, I felt my job I wasn't sure if my job will remain, because the person who was coming over was bringing their own assistant, and that kind of put me in a place where that anxiety, what's going to happen to my job, what's going to happen to me, I need to do something about it. So, assess the threat. You see the threat, and now you want to leap into action and do something about it. So I took the decision of looking outside and moving from my role into something new, something different that has more certainty. The outcome of that decision was I found a new role in another organization. I made the decision, I jumped ship and moved on. And so what happened was, during that transition, rather than me accepting the change, that I actually went and started it myself. Granted, the scenario in front of me was I might not have a job. I need to find another place to land. So it prompted the decision of looking elsewhere. Once all of that came together and I moved on into a new organization, I couldn't adjust to the transition well, the new change, because I was missing what I called at the time my home base, my comfort, where I used to be, the people I worked with. I missed the dynamic of the culture of work and the executive I supported at the time. So it brought in this overwhelming emotion and the loss and despair, and kind of put me into a slight depression, and instead of looking forward, I kept on looking back. So I lost the big picture of focusing on the present moment, on the new opportunity that was created in front of me. And because of it, I ended up seeing everything as a discomfort, a challenge, a red flag. So I ended up wanting to leave where I am because I didn't feel comfortable. So that prompted another change. Fast forward, jumped ship again, went to another company. The change was actually great because it provided few good opportunities. It was a salary increase. It was another great organization, different industry that I haven't worked in before. So it would add to my diverse portfolio as an administrative professional. Great, all great, check mark. So that brought joy to me, that I was able to have another opportunity for another change. Slightly scary because it's a new industry that I'm not used to. But then I realized I can't psych myself out of this time. I need to just lean into it, be open to the learning, and accept the new change. Again, a change also that I went ahead and created and prompted for myself because of my discomfort. New exciting, new learning opportunity, another change. But then what happened, again, it forced another change to take place, and moving on to another industry, back to what was more of my comfort level. why am I sharing this experience? Because the very thing that I wasn't accepting was I didn't stay on the previous organization that I truly was fond of and enjoyed the environment and the people, because I couldn't handle the uncertainty unfolding, and I couldn't lean into it to see where that's going to take me. Was the changes after that decision were all kind of for the better? Yes, from a compensation perspective, from a learning perspective, from a growth, yes, they were all better. So no regret, however, but it was more of an example that I wanted to share with you. When we are not ready to accept the new changes or the difficulty, we end up leaping into making decisions that might be a little bit hasty, or sometimes not having the full valid information at our fingertips to realize that a change is prompted, or to say, yes, we should accept this. So being open is important in life as we go forward. It allows us to make space and room for what's to come, even though it scares us. You can keep blocking the change because it makes you uncomfortable. But what you can do is help yourself by being open to it. Curiosity, open-mindedness, and allowing it to flow and see how it unfolds in your life. It's not gonna kill you. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And even if it turned out to be not a great change, you learn from that experience and you can do something about it. There are 5 practices that could help us into when it comes to resisting change in general, or dealing with difficulties, or whatever it may be. The first one I call it drop the stone. When you drop the stone, it's natural that we move towards what feels good and comfortable and familiar, and away from what doesn't feel good, or the stuff that we don't understand or value or align with our principle and morals. But when these healthy inclinations become internal rules, should have, must, I got to, then there is a big problem, because we feel driven by righteousness or like a failure if we create issues, and it end up creating issues for others and ourselves, because we have these rules and internal rules of how things should be and how it should remain and how it's been done, and then we create problems and difficulty for us and the other people around us. When we face reality in all its messiness and streaming complexity, we see that it exists independent of our rules, always a wiggling room, free of kind of the distractions that we try to impose upon everything. The recognition actually of the truth it pulls you out of conceptualizing into actually direct experiencing. So before you start having these rigidity and rules in place, because the new change is not something that you think it's going to succeed or it's going to work out, release of that rigidity and that control and always knowing how things has to turn out, and it's kind of like that dropping the stone. You're carrying something heavy. These are your rules and your inclination and your attachment to things. Once you drop those, you feel a lot more, you move a lot more freely and lighter in life, and you allow that openness to experiencing other new things, aside from the rules that you created around it. You can consider actually a situation or a relationship through the eyes of the other person involved, right? Ask yourself things that might be, ask yourself if the things you think important and imperative and mandate and rules and necessity are the same for the other person. Probably not. And flip that around. What shoulds are they live with as well? So the other person as well might be living in the shoulds and the must and the way it's supposed to be certain things in the other person's mind as well. What are you violating for that person in your own rigidity and your own set of rules that you're creating around everything? When you think about this situation and apply it actually quite humbling experience, because you can't just look at things from your own perspective and how that work and line up well in your world. What about the other person? If you flip that script, I'm sure the other person has their own rules and mandate that they also violate what you think is should and could and have. Dropping the should imposes you to create a sense of vulnerability to life and the difficult feelings that comes with it. And that can be hard, but it can be very hard. We use shoulds and to try to hold on the pain at bay and the losses that we experience. And inevitably in life we face those whether we like it or not. So yet again, the pain and the loss that do come will come regardless of what we try to prevent or we put in place. So which only dilute us into thinking that the issues and the rules that will somehow hold us back from experiencing those tides of emotion and protect us from all of the pains and the emotions that come from change and transition. The other practices we call let it flow. It's really simple. It's exactly that. Stay mindful and be at peace with the ever-changing stream of consciousness around you. The ups and downs of life, the things that you feel in the body and around you, in the world around you, even with changes that are understandably hard aching and alarming. Mindfulness help you grow from your experiences actually, and it brings clarity and build resilience when you practice that mindfulness by allowing things flow and unfold into your life. Becoming aware of sights and sound and thoughts and feelings and sensation that arises and all the desires passing through awareness without resisting or chasing anything. Think about an internal causes as a pie chart. What makes people miserable? Two of the largest sides of the pie chart: rumination and resisting what is. That's what makes people miserable. Rumination and resisting what is. As a stability of mindfulness actually stops the rumination like a circuit breaker. It also lets you accept your inner experiences and the outer experiences as they are. Not trying to fight with them, resisting them, or changing them, literally as they are. You can still try to improve them, of course, but without adding to the negative emotion and difficulty and the reaction of being the tension of the should have and the could have and the pull and push that we tend to do with that. It helps to take a bird's eye view of your thoughts and feelings. Being objective, being aware. Self-awareness is huge because being aware of what's your body as a whole is telling you, what you're feeling, this tends to support the sense of letting things be as they are, without actually adding to the mental chatter that gets in the way and that mental chatter of me, myself, and them. Meanwhile, the neutral activity decreases in the midline of the neutral cortex that actually enable the rumination and resisting the present by getting caught up in the future and the past. So the rumination, when you step back and have a bird's eye view, you allow yourself to have this self-awareness instead of being stuck and ruminating in the past and all, or jumping over to the future. Mindfulness helps you to live, let it go, be in the present moment, and experience the whatever it is that's arising as it. Meet it where you meet it at where you are. Try the simple practice of holding your breath, exhaling and inhaling longer. Actually, it helps to open up your experiences. It helps you. It helps let it you help let it flow and accept whatever changes happening around you in the world. You can do this as part of a meditation, or even on an everyday life. Just kind of while you're in a meeting or stuck somewhere in traffic, driving or watching the news, take a couple of minutes just to deep inhale, deep exhale. It helps kind of center you. Also, nothing like learn as you go. Learn as you go is basically each day have this opportunity of taking in the good. It helps you to have enjoyable and useful experiences, and how you sink into them they become part of your life when you learn as you go, and you kind of just sink into that good stuff that happened. Make that experience last longer. It's the emotional learning and the semantic learning. It's becoming more skillful actually with the world around you and also the world inside you. It's social learning, motivational learning, even spiritual learning. It's healing from the past and growing strength for the future. It's becoming more compassionate and confident, patient and capable and joyful individual. This is the learning that matters the most. It's the things, if things fall apart, what already inside you is what can really you count on, is building those internal resources, being able to be becoming more compassionate and confident and patient and capable individual. Those what matter the most, because at the end of the day, when everything falls apart, these are the things, that the internal resources that you can tap into and rely on to help you carry on in your journey. We all have experiences all day long. Some of them actually sinking in a good way, and some usually are just stressful moments of sorrow and anxiety and anger and hurt and resentment and yada yada. Meanwhile, all the many experiences of gratitude and accomplishment and friendliness and the feeling cared for and the wholesome pleasure and the insight and the commitment, we let that pass through. Literally like a stream of water, or we just don't actually see that because it gets completely overtaken by all the other not so good experiences we have, the stress, the anxiety, the anger. This is mainly due to the brain evolved tendency and negativity bias that make us only kind of attract those negative emotions and negative experiences and focus on that, versus having that kind of a Teflon for the good experiences. So that's what we need to do. We need to live within those good experiences and see those and capitalize on those and make them last longer, instead of that negativity, the negativity bias in the brain that we have, where we always jumping into just paying attention to the bad stuff. Have you ever noticed when you do so many good things throughout your day for someone, but the one time you do this one thing that was so not right in their eyes, they forget all at once what you've done all along and just focus on that one bad thing that they remember. According to Dr. Rick Hansen, to beat the negativity bias, there are more good inside yourself than just that. So there are a couple of steps that you need to take to beat the negativity bias. First step is you need to experience whatever you want to grow, such as insight, intention, skill, satisfaction, calming, easing, and soothing. The second experience must leave a lasting physical trace behind it in the narrow structure or the function of the brain. Otherwise, there is no lasting value and no healing and no growth or learning will come from it. So stay with the experience, feel it in your body, focus on what is enjoyable or meaningful about it. As the sense of the reward in the experience increases, the dopamine increases in the brain, which flag the experience as a keeper and prioritize them for the long-term storage. Over time, taking in the good, you will feel increasingly filled from the inside out, and then you will feel like there is enoughness of need that are being met already, even as you cope with challenges and difficulties. This reduces our biological rooted tendency towards craving base or the sense of actually something is missing or something is wrong. As we grow in an unshakable belief and an unshakable resilience to well-being, there is less actually push inside to fight the pain and or chase something pleasurable or cling to other people. It's creating that for us, that so we are not always clinging and fighting and holding on to things that when it's time for them to let them go, we should actually be letting them go. There is the other aspect of the practice is us or them. That practice is basically by saying us or them, we're finding it's finding the common ground with every person, especially those who we fear or we're angry with, or those who simply are very different from us. These days, this practice is very important because when you can see the dimming of others as you walk down, let's say down the street or in the mall, we're walking around and you're watching people come and go, and as a couple or somebody passes you, you're jumping right away to kind of, are they like me, or they're different, or you're categorizing the people that you see. This also happens in office politics and family discord. We're always categorizing people and putting them into these different categories, and to see if they're them against us or us and them and all that kind of narrative. You can see your mind moving quickly to reduce the other person to a two-dimensional figure as you invest in your own position and identity, even when that person is your loved ones. The in-group and the out-group and the casual dismissal and the turning away in anger, it's quite often we see that. You also feel like, you know, you have this theme, the theme of that you create for yourself. The theme sometimes, you know, some people being ignored or discounted or feel attacked or tossed aside. All of those themes don't really feel good. To us, others is to see our common humanity. So kind of seeing our common humanity, the shared common universal experiences, that these We recognize that we all want pleasure, we all experience fear and pain. We are all frail or fragile. We will eventually suffer from one thing or another. We will experience separation from one point to another in our life, or from even one day from our loved ones. As you see this as a fact, a universal and common humanity, and in a deep way, we are like, we lose the tension and our body eases, and we become more accepting and also seeing others more clearly, and become more effective with them, even with those who we oppose fiercely. And when we don't feel threatened, they don't feel threatened, and vice versa. Those moments when we look at ways to lose that, we look at the ways we lose empathy, and we stereotype or discriminate, or we punish, or we cast. When we notice that they are like us, demeaning them or others, putting them together in one category or one, try to stop fueling this. When you are looking at people and you're categorizing them and putting them against you and us, and that kind of narrative that you take, you have to stop fueling that process. Because what it does, it's gonna bring you, when you stop fueling the process, it brings you down from the anger that climbing the anger ladder, and seeing the person and as a whole, and have a better picture. The other person, it helps you kind of sink into that, you can still stand up for your rights, obviously, and protect those that you care about, without needing to dehumanize someone else into that them category versus the you category. As you move through your day and you see similarities between people and yourself, try to, this particularly with people that you, let's say, have very different views from, you see different views from them, which is create, rather than when you practice that with people that you don't necessarily agree with, it actually builds eventually the trust over time. It takes away the fear and the dislike. The more you notice and the more you feel into this practice, you probably find your heart more opening and calming and strengthening into this. The last aspect of the practice is be amazed. Having being amazed is basically you are opening up to the moments and the opportunity that you allow yourself to be amazed. Because when we experience change and we resist it, we don't allow for amazement opportunities. Being amazed meaning you are staying, having that sense of freshness and wonder and gratitude and awe, instead of taking things for granted and getting numb from the pressure of work and life. Being amazed brings you into the truth of things, into a relationship with the inherent mysteries and overwhelming gifts of the existence and wonder. Opportunities for amazement are all around us if we allow it, if we try to see it, more of it in our world. And if we see more of it this way, we basically seeing it for the first time, perhaps through the eyes of a childlike wonder, a beginner mind, a Zen mind, you will be amazed at how the sense of goodness that it brings, and openness to opening to those new experiences. Explore don't know mind, not the dumb mind. It's not, you don't always have to know everything, and not everything has to be laid out and planned. Have that, it's okay that you don't know everything, and that sense of wonder and learning again, and amazement and openness, that it doesn't immediately have to slot things into boxes, that allows freshness and curiosity, the mind categorizing and labeling things to help us survive, really. But we don't truly know everything, do we? We don't need to know everything all the time. Just as others are amazing to you, you are also amazing to them. If you were brave enough to be more often filled with wonder and surprise, we would treat ourselves and others with the same kind of a fragile and more gently view. In the end, instead of resisting, allowing yourself to learn as you go, let it flow, seeing life unfolding and happening, stop the narrative of categorizing people, us and them, and kind of and looking for the differences. Find the common humanity in things and the universal experiences to center you and bring that relatable factor, and be amazed at the opportunities that are presented. They present themselves to you, whether that change, the transition, the new job, the new experience, the new feeling, whatever your situation and circumstance might be. Have that being amazed kind of mindset. In summary, there was big turning points when I realized that no matter what things were like at the present moment, I could always look for ways to learn and grow from there, to get more skillful, to heal, to move, to grow. And that's really how you have to see it. I didn't need to despair, because it was in my power to develop myself and have in some way each day, really. So rather than giving to the despair and the uncomfort and resisting because I don't want to experience a change in my life, whether in a personal or professional level, I do have that power in me and the ability to develop and heal and move and grow each day, every day. It's okay that things are difficult sometimes, and that's part of what gives life its flavor and meaning. Not all fulfilling experiences are grounded in some difficulties, but many are. Honor yourself for the hard things you are dealing with, and be aware of the things that are not difficult in your life, including the things that do support you. And with that said, I hope you enjoyed this topic today and you find it helpful, some of these practices and insight that I've shared with you. Until next time, thank you for joining me. I wish you all the best.